I remember there was one time where they said with me and Amy, they said, we really think your acting skills have came a long ways from the beginning of this, and just as a performer, you're really good in the ring, and just there's so many different directions we can go with you now. It's really limitless.
Yep. Yeah.
So which was cool, and it just made me want to go out and get healthy and come back again.
So was it the biggest frustration of your career to that point, that you weren't able to take full advantage of that momentum?
Yeah, that was frustrating. But probably not the biggest frustration of my career, because there'd been a lot of frustrations along the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Probably not the biggest one, but
yeah.
I figured it's cool. I'll go out, I'll get fixed. It's the first time in 7 years, whatever. I've missed any time. Get fixed and come back, and things will be cool.
So,
and that's a big so.
So then you end up. We can fill in some gaps, but let's talk about what happened. The big story, and that is you start figuring out, you get word somehow, and you can tell the story that something weird is going on with your longtime girlfriend. Let's move ahead, and we can fill some gaps. Talk a little bit about, because the story's been told so many times, how you and Lita got together and all that. You've written about it, but go ahead and just kind of in a nutshell talk about how long you guys had been together, when you established a relationship, and kind of move into then on your own finding out this bombshell that something was going on behind your back.
Well, the first time I met Amy, and it's just, I know you call her Lita, it's still hard for me to get into.
Yeah, either way is fine.
I'd met Amy around January of '99, actually, just when she was trying to get into the wrestling business. They were doing an independent show not far from my house, and I met her there. Seemed like a pretty cool girl. Just talked to her for a little bit. She said, we're doing some more shows in this area, and those guys were interested in bringing Jeff and I in. This was kind of when they were still doing third-party bookings. And I was going, yeah, sure, if you're in this area, I'd love to come there and do the show, whatever.
Yeah.
It's when we were still wearing the plaid tights and stuff. A few weeks later, we actually did a show with those guys, and I remember just hanging out with her, and she was never like the kind of girl I would have envisioned myself being with, especially at that time, but I remember just hanging out with her. She had like a real cool personality to her. And that night after the show, we actually drove back to Charlotte, and we went out to a club and hung out for a while, and I remember, that night we talked for a long time, and we got a tad bit physical, had a little bit of physical interaction that one time, and then we exchanged numbers, and we said, let's keep in contact or whatever. And it was still like, she was just coming out of a relationship that she'd been in for a long time she'd just been with a guy that was he was a singer or a dancer for a band, I'm not exactly sure, and they kind of broke up for a while, and then they were just kind of like seeing each other on and off still after that. It's like, a lot of people said, she cheated on her first boyfriend with you, and really she didn't, because that's not the way it went. It's just like she was still associated with this guy, but they'd been split from being in a serious relationship for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, we kind of stayed in contact, and I was busy still doing my wrestling stuff and whatever, and I wasn't worried about getting a girlfriend at this point in my career.
Yeah.
And then, every month or every few weeks, she would come down, we'd hang out, do whatever, and it was just a good time. It was just real easy, no strings attached. We just kind of enjoyed hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
Along this time, she was like really starting to get this bond for me, like a lot more than I was for her. And there was one point where I'd met this girl that'd come along, and we'll just call her Susie for the time being. And Susie now had the kind of looks that I'd always thought about having as a girlfriend. She was just like a blonde bombshell. And I'd met her, and actually me and one of my friends at this time, I'll call him Joe for the time being in the story, Susie and Joe. I hope I can remember that. I'll probably say their real names. But anyway, we both met her at the same time. And I actually started seeing her some. I went out with her a few times. And I remember telling Amy, like, hey, I just met this one girl, and I'm really into her, and I'm digging her. I said, and really, I'd rather not see you or really have any physical interaction with you, because I want to try and take this serious and do it right.
Yeah.
And there was actually one line that I said to her that always, Amy would bring this up often. And it was not said in spite at all. I just said, she's just like you. I said, she's really cool. I said, she looks like a supermodel. And I so didn't mean for her to come out that way. And I apologize for that a lot. And she would hit that every once in a while. But so I went out with this girl for a while, and things were okay. It seemed like they were pretty cool. And I was still working on the road a lot at this point. This is when we were around the time of being tag champs, very, very busy, or right before that. And her sister really liked my friend, Joe, a lot more than me, and was kind of persuading her. Said, I think you should go see Joe, or this, that, and the other thing. And there was one scenario where her sister and her husband got Susie and Joe to go out with them. And they went out, and I guess they drank a little bit or whatever that night, and they got together, and they kissed or whatever. And I came back and found out about this from, another friend of his. And I just confronted him. I said, well, dude, us being friends, I said, I really am not linked to this girl, but, as friends, I don't think it's cool. I said, we should probably, if we're going to continue our friendship, just kind of let this girl go. I said, and neither one of us fuck with her if we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, probably, even if you do like her, it's probably going to end up being a choice, either her or me. And he actually chose her. So he kind of ended up going off in a bad road, and eventually, he went into a real bad place, and he actually wrestled for a while too. And as he wrestled, eventually he went to work for the WWE, and he eventually got released, and was in a real bad place and became real bad on drugs. Anyway, I started seeing Amy some more at this time, and I would see Amy occasionally here and there. And then I was at a point where that girl had really frustrated me, and then I was on the road, and Jeff and I were fucking maniacs for a few months as far as being on the road and like living the things, being young, hot heartthrobs or whatever. Like we were just kind of doing our thing.
Yeah.
And then once that started playing out and getting a little old, whatever, Amy was just getting to the point where she was getting ready to get a job with the company. And she did get a job, and I remember just vouching for her and saying, yeah, she is. She's been, she's worked real hard, and I think she's got some things that she could do. This is when she was doing Miss Congeniality at ECW, and I always stayed in contact with her. And then she did come to work at the company, and then once she came to work there, that's when we started really hanging out like on a more serious level. I wouldn't say right there we'd say we were boyfriend, girlfriend, or we were in love, but we started hanging out on a more serious level. So she came in. Obviously we started, at first she kind of traveled on her own or did her thing. She had a little bit of a different deal. But then once she kind of split from S.A. Rios and started working with us, and people knew that we were like, we never really spoke about it, but they knew that we were like together, at least in a capacity, when people weren't around.
Yeah.
And she started traveling with myself and Jeff, and it was just like, every night we were just like best friends. Like we would just check into the hotel and we'd be there. It's just like being with your best friend, but having all these great benefits, as far as being a female.
Yeah.
And really just both of us fell like so much in love with each other that we really didn't even know it. At this point, it was just so natural and so organic, and it was so great.
I was just going to say organic, that's, yeah.
And it's just unbelievable because you didn't, like, we weren't even, and I just remember the first time she had wanted to say this for a long time, and she said, I loved you, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I've never been involved in a heavy relationship like that.
Yeah.
And then just, I knew that there was a part of me that did, and it was I was a couple weeks behind her with that, but I said, I do with you too, and it's odd because I don't even know how we got here.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those things. But, I mean, I could see us getting here, but it's just like we really weren't expecting it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just things were great, man. And it was just, that point was just such a fun time in my life because, like, I didn't even think about wanting to be with other girls, and the same thing with her.
Yeah.
And, it's just like traveling with your best friend, who's also your girlfriend, and you're doing, your dream job. So it was very, very cool. And then it just kept getting stronger and stronger to the point came where she broke her neck, actually.
Yeah.
And whenever she broke her neck, that was devastating to me. I mean, it was to her, too, because she kind of became a different person at that point. Just because she lost so much of her confidence, because her thing was she was just always so independent and always so strong. And now she felt like everything was kind of taken away from her. And I remember, actually, we were going overseas, and the company was real cool. They let me go to her surgery, and I stayed there, and I flew on a commercial flight one day later overseas to pick up and do the rest of the tour. And it was just still very hard. I would come home, and I would spend time with Amy, and I would want to be with Amy. And just as she had this broken neck, she had moved to Sanford, where she lived only probably 10 or 15 minutes from where I lived. And the whole reason she ever moved there in the first place was to be close to me.
Yeah.
Just so we would be around, just because she definitely liked me a lot more than I liked her in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now she had her place there, and I would almost come home, and I would, run errands with her, or I would try and spend time with her, and she just, like, was in such a bad place because she felt like she'd lost what all she had, and she just didn't feel like herself at this point.
Yeah.
And just the more time went on, and I was on the road 5 or 6 days a week and doing appearances, and she was at home, and she just kind of moved there to be with me, and she felt like she didn't really have any friends, or, now she didn't feel like herself, and now I'm back on the road, and it's like, not that we drifted apart or stopped loving each other, but there was a point during that time where it just became different because she kind of pulled away from me just because she didn't feel like who she was, and then I was just on the road all the time, and I was kind of wrapped up into doing my stuff because that's when I was the most successful that I've ever been, too.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, it was a huge temptation for me, which nobody really knows this story. This is the first time that it'll ever come out, is that this girl, Susie, that I had such a huge crush on before, had split up with this boyfriend, and he was gone, and she knew he was a loser. She regretted doing everything she did so bad. She all of a sudden got my number and called me out of the blue one day while I was on the road with Shannon. Told her, I just want to see what's going on. Were you still with Amy? Yeah, I just want to see, and it's just good to talk to you, and I'm so proud of you. You're doing so good. I told Shannon, that was odd. I said, that was Susie. And he's like, really? Wow, isn't that shocking that she's calling you, whatever. So then I start, like, I remember as soon as I went home, too, there's one thing I told Amy. I said, yeah, that girl Susie, you remember her? She just called me. She said, oh, great. She said, that's great. She'd called. That's probably the last thing she wants to hear at this point she's at in her life. I was going, she said, well, you shouldn't talk to her anymore. I was going, I mean, I don't have intentions to, really, but she just called me. So,
and did you have a friendship with Susie before? I mean, you knew who she knew you well enough to call?
No, I mean, I'd never talked to her since, like, I told my friend it was a choice, kind of me or her. That's the girl I'm telling you about.
So that's the last time you had talked to her at that point?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what, yeah, it'd been years.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But she just realized, she's like, whoa, boy, did I screw up.
Yeah.
And then she'd called in, and I remember telling Amy that, and Amy's like, oh, great. Yeah, that's all I need.
Yep.
It's cool, believe me, don't worry.
Yeah.
You and me, we make a team. And then, a couple weeks passed and she called again. And then, I would talk to her, and I think there was a part of me that felt like, oh, this is pretty cool that, now this bitch really wants to talk to me now, after this one thing we went through. And then she called again, and, I'd speak to her here and there. I never called her, but I said, well, it's fine if you call and want to talk. And I remember I'd tell Amy when I talked to her, yeah, but she's real cool. I really don't have any interest in her. But then, like, this was bothering Amy, and I saw that it was bothering Amy. And this girl was, like, really persistent in pursuing me. And there was one time she said, well, I've been trying to get one of your books. This is right after her book came out. I've been trying to get one of your books, but I haven't been able to get one. I was just wondering if you have a copy, if I could get one, And I remember one time I was going to the airport, and I said, okay, well, if you want, I'll just stop by and meet you here, and I'll give you a copy of the book. And I actually stopped and met her and gave her a copy of the book. And she said, well, can we get together and, like, go out and do something sometime or whatever? I mean, or you just still up with Amy? And I was like that. And I was like, well, I don't know. I said, here's this. I said, me and Amy are kind of serious, and I just knew there was a part of me that was like kind of like, whoa, I'm kind of like starting to be lured into something here, and I need to pull back.
Starting to grow into something very slowly that you didn't want it to.
Yeah, but then I got on that flight that night because it was a girl that I'd envisioned myself being with at one point in my life, and a girl that really had all my looks. And now Amy kind of, she was at home hurt, and I wasn't around her all the time, and she just kind of like been something different than what she was.
She withdrew a little bit from.
A little bit,
things,
maybe.
Yeah.
But then like I got on that plane and I flew, and it seemed like I was going to Rochester. And I remember sitting on that plane, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I said, I got to stop this right now, because if I don't, then I'm really going to fuck up a good thing. I said, sure, Amy may be hurt or whatever. I said, but I got to stop this right now. So cold turkey, I told the girl, I said, look, I don't need to talk to you anymore. I got a girlfriend at home, and this is what it's all about, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Just being with you is just, sure, I'm not doing anything wrong now, but it could lead to doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so imagine, how this story's going to work out already as we go ahead. But anyway, I'd stop that right there, and then this girl had still called me some after I told her not to call me anymore, that I shouldn't talk to her, and I ended up changing my number out of the whole thing. And then Amy had got back, and she was healthy again. She got back on TV, and I just remember after having that one point of where, like, we were never had problems, but there was where we kind of lost that closeness just from being away from each other. And it wasn't that we really lost closeness; it was just that I was on the road so much, and she was at home.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It was just that being separated.
Yeah.
And that's why we both made a point. We said we need to be together, because like if we don't, then it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And I remember when she came back, I was wrestling. I was sick. I'd actually had strep throat, and I wrestled a house show that was probably 4 hours away from the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was Hershey. That was going to be her return to the wrestling ring. And I was sick that day, and I asked Shannon, I said, hey, man, I think we can make it and get to the show in time for Amy's match, and I'd like to. And he's like, all right, man. And I remember I drove like a fucking maniac all the way there, like 100 miles an hour. And I got there, and as soon as I got in, walked backstage, walked in through the curtain, like her music hit right when I walked in front of the monitor. Her music hit, and I thought I was going to miss it because traffic was bad, construction was bad. Her music hit, she went and wrestled. She messed up her teeth that night, but I went up to grill, and she walked through, and like just when she saw me, just knowing that I was sick and that I wasn't going to be there, and it was her first match back, she was already so emotional just from having that and being hurt, and she saw me and just broke into tears, and I did too. I just remember we left, and she was like, tell everybody thanks for the match, and we just walked outside, and I just remember holding her hand and walking outside that building, and we were just both so, to me, that was like, this is the girl that I should be with at that time.
Yeah.
Because there were so many things that said it's right, to be here.
Yep.
And, we both definitely felt like that. And then we ended up coming, I came to Raw because I stressed it, we'd both asked Vince, and we did that. And, how that happens. Just by accident, there was, the thing where Amy did fire up, and it kind of did bad for both of us. Yep. But whatever, we said, fuck it. We're a team. If one of us does bad, we both do bad, and we'll work out this together. And we did. We ended up doing the whole thing, Kane storyline. During that whole time with Kane, like, we were back on the road. We had a dog. I've never been a big pet lover, but now since I'm so in love with Amy, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, where I may have questioned this before, I'd been building my house, and she'd been helping me. I said, look, come on, get rid of your stuff, move in, let's do this, let's make this a serious deal. We had a dog together. She'd really turned me on to dogs, and we actually lost our dog in a real bad accident, and even brought us together close. During that whole time with Kane, just like it was perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? While we were on the road. And then I get hurt, and I'm going home. So the first couple of months of that, she was just real sad because she was like traveling along. She didn't want to travel with anybody. Then she traveled with some of the girls, but she was just so different from them because our relationship had been just grown, just like being best friends and doing whatever for each other, but just literally being best friends, and just like knowing that we're there for each other. So as time goes on, I'm at home, and there's a part of me at home where I'd kind of remove myself from the business because I'd just been so about the business, and I just started enjoying things at home, and I was like fixing up my house, and I was thinking about, wow, it would be cool to be at home and be married or have kids or have a bunch of animals or do whatever, but live like a normal
like
home.
Jeff.
No, actually be at home and live a normal life.
Yes.
Normal. Normal is the key word there.
Yes.
But nothing against
No
Jeff.
10 dogs.
No slight.
Yeah.
But anyway, that went down. And then there was a point where she'd stopped riding with the girls and she rode by herself again for a while. And she was just like real sad, and she liked being at home and hanging out. And I remember with the weekend right before this. Well, actually, no, I'll take it back. It was during this. There was a point where she said, "Well, I'm not really riding with anybody." She said, "Adam's not riding with anybody, so he's gonna join me." And I was like, "Okay, cool, that's cool."
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
how
like
could you
somebody
possibly suspect?
Yeah, it's just like with having your brother there.
Mm-hmm.
So they rode a couple weeks, and I remember there was a point like the first time I really, anything went on, I guess, was towards early in December. But
2004, just.
Of 2004, yes.
Yeah.
But the Thanksgiving weekend, right there around Thanksgiving, I remember Amy, we went out, we were wanting a hot tub, and she actually went out and paid $12,000 cash for a hot tub. She said, "Well, let's go ahead and get this." She said, "We're going to be here for the rest of our lives, so let's go ahead and get this." I mean, so that's definitely a sign.
Yeah.
That's what's in her
She
mind.
could have easily not said that, and it wouldn't have been suspicious. So why, she offered that up. That was a clear sign of commitment.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, there was, and she would say it herself, like
Yep.
the spot she ended up getting into, she has no idea,
Yep.
how it happened.
Yep.
But anyway, I guess what happened was Adam came to her, and he'd just been married 2 or 3 months earlier, and he just had all these problems, and a lot of them stem from himself, and maybe he shouldn't have been married, but then he starts really, confining all his problems in her, and the ironic thing about this is like, she started spinning off about how great our relationship was. Well, Matt would never do that to me, or I'd never do that to him, and this is great, da 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 da. But then there was a point in there where I think Adam, when confining with her, like, did something different that she didn't even think she likes or didn't know she likes, and was very, like, treat her very girly or very ladylike. I think that's what the thing was, which is not like anything I didn't do, and we never had any problems, but it was like a different approach and something we didn't really have in our relationship necessarily. I think is what it was.
Because you guys started off as pals to a degree, and it grew into something a lot more quickly. Yeah.
And what his intentions were, I could say I don't know, but it's just hard to suspect that there weren't intentions.
Yeah.
Especially with this.
Yeah.
And, the whole deal was, it's just like being away, that road, that separation, it's very easy to become disconnected with somebody. And even though we'd come home and everything would be good, but it was almost like, I really feel, just like the more I've looked into the situation, it's just like she was kind of intrigued, or just had a weird curiosity about something that she didn't know that she even liked or had been interested in.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think once it started, then he continued the pressure.
And he kind of saw it happening and maybe fed it.
But what was odd is just like she had to be living 2 lives, because we'd come home and everything would be absolutely great, and there was never any kind of change.
Wow.
But I guess there was this kind of, and it's really like people think of like it's just a physical deal, and really it wasn't a physical deal. It was a mental deal more than anything else. But in some ways, a mental deal is worse than a physical deal.
Yeah.
As you know what I'm saying. But then there comes a time where I was going to her surgery in Birmingham where she got hurt, and I really felt like the small amount of physical interaction they had, which is not as great as people think, but was right before that.
Yeah.
And it was like that weekend that she tears her ACL and everything that I did in my knee. And I really feel like, you talked about religion earlier, like I'm not a religious zealot, you know what I mean? But I believe in God, and I believe in things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe in higher power, and I just think there was a point where she was supposed to be sent home to like try and get her head screwed on
Keep
straight.
things from getting even worse than it was.
Than what happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was driving down to her surgery that day, and just to give you an example of what kind of boyfriend I was, and once again, ironically enough, I'll back this up, that whole girly aspect or whatever, or spoiling a girl, I think is how Adam likes to describe it, was something that whenever she'd get hurt with surgery or Christmas, like we'd had real good, like I'd had flowers when she came home from being hurt.
Yeah.
From Puerto Rico, I had flowers and I had wine and I had a gift and a card for her, and just things that I hadn't done because I was raised with such a hard dad, but things that while I was at home started thinking about more of a family life. And it's funny because like even if that's something that she was interested in that she didn't know, like I was already becoming that at this point. And especially at the Valentine's Day, which was getting right towards the end before I found this out, which is really sad looking back in retrospect.
The timing of it,
And we were driving down that night, or I was. She flew and actually drove her to the airport, which was an hour out of the way. I was going to make an 8-hour drive to Birmingham because it was the only way I could work out my schedule. I couldn't fly and get back in time to go to appearances my next day after that. So I actually drove an hour out of the way to Raleigh to drop her off at the airport, make sure she got there safe. And then I started that 8-hour drive, and once I got about 2 or 3 hours into the drive, she'd actually called and said she'd forgot her MRIs. And like they couldn't do her surgery without her MRI, so I had to turn around and drive 2 hours back home and then make the whole 8-hour drive again. So I literally drove for, I drove for like 13 hours that day.
Yeah.
And while I was, during the course of this drive, I got a phone call, and it was I'd called a lot of people on the road just kind of burning up time, and I called
Yeah.
Adam actually because I actually, oddly enough, it was a little suspicious. Like I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I got a call from his home, and I just remember picking up the phone like, "Hey boy, what's going on?" "Matt, this is Lisa," and it's just his wife had found, a text message.
Yeah.
I text messages from him and one from Amy to him, just saying, "I'm gonna really miss seeing you on the road. Love being with you."
Yeah.
Just really, really odd. And it just gave you that real weird feeling. And then I just remember calling her and asking her directly about it, and she absolutely confessed up to it. Said, "Yeah, I did leave that text message. I probably shouldn't have," or whatever. She said,
She was quick on her feet, basically, in retrospect.
Yeah.
She knew how to disarm you at least somewhat.
I guess, yeah. I mean, she was just like, well, you'll see as time goes on, but she was really searching for a way to get herself out of this.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know what to do. She said, "Yeah, I did do that." She said, "We'll talk about it later," or whatever. If you want to. She said, "Yeah, but it's no big deal, whatever." And then I remember talking to Adam about this. "Hey, man, call me when you get a chance." And I said, "Man, what's up with this text message that Amy sent you?" I said, "Did she send you one?" He said, "Yeah, she just sent a text message just saying that, yeah, she's having surgery tomorrow and what time it is, and she's going to have it in Birmingham." But, that's been my main heat with him, that just his dishonesty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that was the first time you ever brought it up to him, and you got a completely false answer from him.
Yeah.
He held back the real details.
Yeah. And then, anyway, drove down there, went to the surgery, and was there. Well, actually, I picked her up in Atlanta at her mother's, and then we were going to drive over to Birmingham together. And I remember just getting in the car, and it was very awkward, very tense, because I was wanting to speak to her about this, and I was kind of wanting her to bring it up first, talk about it. Then eventually, halfway through, I said, "Hey, what's up with that text message? That makes me feel very awkward." I said, "Why is Lisa calling me about that?" She said, "Oh, I thought you was going to ask about this." She said, "I did send that." She said, "It was just kind of like as a friend thing. I was just I was buzzed because I'd been taking those painkillers and drinking, and and she said, but really," she said, "I probably did while I was on the road with him, because I was traveling with him those last couple of months, and I was spending actually more or as much time with him as I was you, and I probably made a connection with him that I shouldn't have made." She said, "But I shouldn't have done that." She said, "But I think that'll be over now that I've had that I'm having the surgery and I'm going to be at home." And it was like an answer you didn't want to hear, but at the same time, it kind of made you feel better because
it felt honest.
Felt honest,
Yeah.
and it really was honest to a degree, not all the way, but to a degree. And then, we got there, went to the deal, and she set up the next morning. She had her surgery, and I remember just giving her a kiss and holding her hand, and she was going in, just very emotional, and she was just so upset. And part of it was she was so upset because she knew there was a weird feeling within me that I felt awkward, and she knew that she needed me there the whole while to do this.
Yeah.
She had her surgery, it was fine. I sat with her that day, and everything seemed to be cool. I remember getting back on the road and driving home. But it was real sad. Later, once everything came back out, I looked at phone bills that day, and her and Adam had talked for 3 or 4 hours while I was driving that day, going through all that shit, which was brutal.
Yeah.
And very shortly after I left, back on the phone with him again, which was very heartbreaking looking back in retrospect, which is the stuff that drives you temporarily insane.
Yeah.
And anyway, she'd had the surgery. She ends up coming back home. Things were okay for a week or so, and then Valentine's Day came around, and it's I bought her all this shit for Valentine's Day, and she had a very limited amount of stuff for me, and that definitely threw a flag. And I just saw on her one phone, she had a phone that was in my package, and there was a call from Adam there. And I was like, "Why is this motherfucker calling you Valentine's Day?" I said, "This is odd." I said, I don't want you speaking to him anymore. I said, "This is very, very weird." I said, "I don't know what's going on here." I said, "I don't know what this weird deal is." She said, "Oh, okay, you're right, I shouldn't," or whatever, da-da-da-da. And then we had a couple days where it was just very tense, and I knew something was wrong. And she admitted, she said, "Well, I just think there's a part of me, I'm just not sure what I'm feeling right now, and I think maybe I should go stay with my mom for a few days and try and clear my head or work things out." And then we actually got into a real big argument. She actually drove off for the day, and it was a Friday of that week. She drove off for the day just to go and think. And I remember I got on the phone and I'd called some people, and I remember calling Adam, and I said, "Hey man, what's up with you and my girlfriend? What's going on? Something's very odd here."
Yeah.
I said, "If she calls you, don't answer. And as a man and as a friend, do not call her." And he said, I won't, buddy. I'm sorry, buddy." And he buddied me a lot. "Oh, buddy, I won't."
That can be scary when you hear that word.
And it's just all it took is some honesty.
Yeah.
Anywhere in this, and things could have been figured out or resolved.
Yeah.
So I just figured, dude, it's as a friend, I would still believe what he's saying at that point.
Yeah.
And what happened was Amy came home that night, and she did realize, she told me, she said, "I've really been fucked up, and my head's not where it needs to be." She says, "And I'm going to fix it," she said, "and I'm sorry, I apologize." And I remember that night we had one of the most passionate love-making sessions we've ever had.
Yeah.
because she'd been gone all day, and I actually went out with some of my friends, and I drank, and I said, we'll come home, we'll talk about things, and we talked about things, and it was very, very passionate. It was.
And was she honest with you that as much as she could be that evening, or not very much?
No, I mean, just the thing she was saying. The thing she was saying was just that her head was messed up and not where it needed to be, but she was going to fix it.
So okay, so it felt honest to you, but it wasn't.
And something she told Adam is that she didn't need to be talking to him anymore.
Yeah.
Because she's fucked up. You know what I mean? Because really, like at this point, she's just like got feelings for two people.
Yeah.
You know, so then we spend this weekend together, and like we have a really good weekend, and then there's a point where she had an appearance on Sunday, but then came back home Monday, and everything was very, very good, and it seemed like we were getting back on the right track. And then I happened to go pick up her other phone, which happened to be sitting there, and I checked the messages, where I've never done shit like that before. And I checked them, and Adam had just burned up her phone with messages, just saying, I just want you to know, I love you, and if you're going to be with Matt, not with me, I don't think I can live with myself, and just please call me.
These are text messages or voice?
Voice messages.
And you listened to them?
Yes.
Yep.
And like we'd had a great night, a very intimate night again together. I just like got up to get water, like in the middle of the night in the kitchen. I just saw her other phone there, and just so odd. I just remember just seeing the phone. It was like in a movie. I just looked at the phone, and it's just like you zoom into it, just going like. Actually, she hadn't been using that phone because that was her own phone. I'd like bought a phone and put it on my package, and that's what she used.
Yeah.
And this other phone, and I checked that in these messages, and I just remember hearing them, just like, holy fuck, and I'm just like freaking out. And I just remember. Because the first thing I do is, and we had Sprint phones, and I forwarded them to my phone, just because I don't want people to think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I forwarded them to my phone. I forwarded them to Shane too, who's one of my better friends. It's like, fucking listen to this. I don't know what's going on, but something is, and I'm getting ready to get to the bottom of it. And then I go in there and I ask Amy about this stuff, and you know, she just breaks down crying and confesses to quite a bit of it, not quite all.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm irate, and I'm going. People don't say I love you when you know this isn't going on where. People don't say I love you without having sex, you know, but that was denied, and even still to this point, like, I really don't think that's happened. It could have, but you know, other stuff. Yeah. But anyway, I just remember I was irate. I was throwing lamps and shit, and I just don't do that, dude. I don't get mad. And then I was like, get the fuck out of my house. And looking back in retrospect, I wish I would have handled it differently.
Really?
But I didn't.
Because I mean, some people would say. There's nothing you could do that wouldn't be justified at that point.
There isn't, really. But just looking back in retrospect, I mean, there's a lot of things in this whole thing because I've never been involved in anything like this. But, you know, then she leaves and she's just upset and wanting to talk to me about things and, like, trying to explain. But, I mean, there's nothing to explain that can really justify at this point. And then she leaves to go to her mother's. And just looking back is just like, the thing that I hate is that she made a huge mistake by being weak in the first place and letting this happen without communicating with me. And then just like, she was guilty and she was like trying to get herself out of this without telling me and trying to just like kind of let this happen then move back on and get here. Yeah. But she was just still pressured so much, you know, all the time. And it's just, and then too, once again, she wasn't strong enough to avoid this pressure. Yeah. And then, anyway, she'd been asked to leave and just like, she was really afraid to talk to me because she just didn't want to say the wrong things for a certain amount of time. And then she'd left to go to her mother's, and then there would be times where a couple days later I'd try to calm down and say, look, you know, there's only a small window of salvageability for this stuff. You know, if we're going to salvage something, we need to figure out and why did this happen. And you know, she just didn't know. She said, if I knew it would be easy, but I don't. And I just almost look back like the thing with Susie, as I was saying earlier, where I saw that something could happen, but I was able to put on the brakes where she didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's why I told that in the story.
Yeah.
It's a very similar situation. Yes. And then just for it to be one of my close friends, I mean, that's just like, you know, that's just like having two knives put in your back.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And as far as your friends in World Wrestling Entertainment over the years, Edge is what, top 2, top 3 of every top 4. I mean, he was one of your closest friends. I mean, this isn't an acquaintance who you hung out with a little bit. This is somebody who you've said if you guys were not in wrestling but lived a block away from each other, you'd hang out a lot. I mean, these are the guys who you were identified with career-wise, but also on the road. One of your best friends. Yeah, there were, you know, there's only a handful of guys, and he would be one of those guys. It would be one of my closer friends. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's just something you would never suspect, especially because you think he's like, you know, just a good quality human being. And you knew what he was like on the road. He had been married twice, and you knew, I mean... Yeah, I did know that he had some relationship problems, but really the stuff that we never talked about before. Yeah. You know, and as far as him being on the road, like, I really never saw that side of him, but I've heard things, even, you know, since then, and other things where, you know, there could be problems there, you know, from that side, just as far as relationship problems. But you didn't know it at the time. You did not know he might be a high percentage candidate to maybe be messing around with. No, I never thought it. Just out of respect for both of us, and considering how well I knew Amy, I would never. I mean, like really, if I would have had to bet my life on that happening, I would have lost my life. Yeah. Yeah.
Honest to God.
Yeah. So, okay, so go ahead. You start finding out more and more about what's going on. You investigate.
Yeah, so anyway, I found out these messages, and I kind of get an idea of what has gone on, which I've kind of told you already. That's kind of how we got to where things were. So then, during the course of this week, and I actually, I'd called Adam right after I found this out, like after I'd been upset with Amy and told her to get the fuck out of my house. And I remember calling Adam, and I guess he was flying home, and I was like, you motherfucker, when I see you, I'm going to slap the fuck out of your mouth. He said, call me back. So I just heard your messages, just irate as I could be. And then I remember getting a call back, just apologetic. I'm sorry, it's not too late. You guys can still work things out. You can still make it through this. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. And, buddy, I'm just so sorry. I want to fly up there and see you. I said, you do not want to fly up here and see me. I said, actually, I take that back. Please, fly up here and see me.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I said that.
Yeah.
And then he was just blah, 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 blah. And I said, by the way, if it makes you feel any better, I said, I've called your wife and left those messages on her machine. So, I know that he knew that had happened too. And he's just like, oh. So I'm just so sorry. He said, it's just not too late for you guys. It's just not too late for you guys. I just remember saying that over and over. But it's just like later I got copies of Amy's phone bill because I had her info with his phone. It's just like, he never stopped calling. It's not like he tried to stop this.
Even while he's telling you it's not too late for you guys.
Like,
he hangs up the phone and boom, calls her.
Sure, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, absolutely, being dishonest with me. Saying one thing and meaning another.
Yeah.
And then there came a point where I talked to him a couple times over the course of those couple days. And, I called them both, Amy, and I just said, look, I said, I don't really understand how this happened, but what you guys are doing is just like a drug. I said, it started off where I guess there was a little bit, and then you're like, oh, I want a little bit more, and then it kept building and building and building. I said, now you guys are out of control. And I said, if you don't stop, you're just going to kill yourselves. I said, this is going to just turn into a disaster. I said, if anybody's going to salvage their relationships here. And just I remember one of his big points, he was going, well, just let's, don't tell anybody. He says, we can fix this or whatever. And I was just especially being so angry in the beginning, I was very split on that and torn on that because, in a way, I didn't want to tell anybody. I wanted to kind of just go away and, let me and Amy try and work things out, but just because I still, love her so much.
Yeah.
And then there was another part of me who's like, you motherfuckers, you're not going to get away with this. You know what I mean? And I definitely wanted to tell my close friends so they would believe me, just because it was such an unbelievable episode.
Yeah.
And kind of as time went on, those couple days, I really would have not told many people, but the thing was, I talked to Adam too, and I said, the same thing, drug reference, and don't do this, and let's try and salvage something if we're going to salvage it, whatever. And then, I said, you guys just shouldn't talk to each other. Let you try and figure out your relationship, and let us try and figure out our relationship. And he said, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that, maybe we shouldn't do that, or maybe we should do that, maybe we shouldn't talk, or whatever. And there were just a couple of days where they went without talking, but I know, he told Christian, which got back to Jericho, he's like, fuck it, my wife left, and she's upset, went to Colorado, I'm going to call Amy. And it's just he'd said that he wasn't, and he didn't. He wasn't making an effort to correct anything.
Yeah.
Is where my big problem was. And that's the kind of things that really drove me over the edge. Mm-hmm. And then especially when he wasn't making an effort, then that would be 20 more people I'd call, listen, this motherfucker, da-da-da-da, and I'll run into him again.
Yeah.
So now the story's just growing. And it's just, there was one point too, which I guess the first thing, which looking back in retrospect was a mistake. With I just remember all the pictures in the house I had of me and Amy being so happy. I just tore, everything just came down. It was sickening to look at.
Yeah.
Especially considering circumstances involved. And I just remember being at my website and I told her, I said, take those pictures down. And I didn't have intentions of doing this, but then people said, why is Amy's pictures down? Why is Amy's pictures down? And I was just well, if you don't know why they're down, I think you should ask her.
Yeah, I remember that.
And really, looking back in retrospect, you shouldn't have did that. But it was just one of those things where when you're being lied to and dishonest, it's just you're looking for anything to kind of leash out and vent.
Yeah.
And then the story started breaking out, and then everybody was starting to know about it. And then once the story did start spreading, the first thing I wanted people to know was I had never did anything wrong with Amy. It's not like I was mean to her. I was great to her. As good as she can get, really. I mean, as far as asking for a good relationship. And
you knew no one was going to contradict that. Nobody has. I mean.
No, it's impossible too.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, well, you can lie, but even no one's dared to do that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And and then that just led to things. And then there were other just incidents that would go on where you think me and Amy would have this good conversation, but then she really I just feel bad for her, and it's not I'm just defending her now because she was the one I loved and Adam I didn't, but she at least has been sincere and very honest throughout the thing, where Adam was the one who was just always trying to backpedal and just say, you make up a lie after lie. He was very dishonest, just trying to cover his tracks. Dude, you've already done wrong. Everything's out. Let's go ahead and either be honest and figure this out or not. And especially with his wife, he was real bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then there would just be times where it seemed like Amy and I would have a couple good days as far as trying to talk about things, and then something would happen where his wife would tell me something he said to her, and vice versa, and there was just so much he said, she said in this mix, and then it would just really blow me up because I was really an emotional wreck during this.
Yeah.
And then once this stuff did get back to the office, there was a point where they said, look, we want you guys to figure this out, and they didn't want me to come to the Raleigh show because they were the TV, the Raw in Raleigh, because they were worried there was going to be a physical altercation. They said, so you guys figure this out, and this isn't our job. We don't have anything to do with this. They're on TV. We don't care.
Yep.
So you guys figure this out. So I was the one trying to be the bigger person again because nobody else was really stepping up, because Amy's thing is just I fight, man. When I get back into a corner, I fight, or I don't sit there and wait for something to happen. I try and make something happen.
Yeah.
And even during this, they said, okay, well, you guys figure it out. And now I know it's starting to affect work. So I actually called her and said, look, before this Raleigh show, they don't want me to go. I said, let's get together, all three of us, and fucking sit down and talk about this. If everybody's going to be in there, which nobody really knew about this either. That's the only time I'd been in his presence, well, the Fayetteville House show.
Okay.
But we actually all sat down before that Raleigh TV event that morning and sat down and said, what are we going to do here? In a hotel room.
Wow. Just you three?
Just us three.
Wow.
And it was me on one side, Amy in the middle, and him on the other side. And
and just put a time frame on it. How many days had gone by or weeks since you first confirmed on those
probably
phone
2
messages?
weeks. 2 weeks.
So you're still pretty heated, but you've
very heated.
You've had a little time to cool off, but then also a number of reasons to be upset again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There was just reasons. There kept being reasons to be upset again over this.
Yeah.
And it's just basically the whole principle of that meeting. The whole reason we were going to have it was just to figure out how are we going to address this situation. Now it's fucking work up.
Yeah.
And we sat down there, and it's pretty general. I said, okay, well, I could go to SmackDown, or and my thing was I said, Adam, really? I said, if Amy and I are going to try and work things out, which she has expressed that, and I know she's got these feelings for you, I really think you should go to SmackDown. You should volunteer to, and let us try and see if we are going to work things out. Because if I go there and we separate, then that's definitely it.
Yeah.
And then he obviously didn't want to do that because he wanted to be wherever she was going to be, and it was just, we talked about all the options, and whatever. I guess we could have done it on the phone. It was just very, very tense, and just sitting there, a lot of cold stares.
Well, I was going to say, was he being buddy-buddy with you, trying to be cool, or was he very cold and distant?
It was just very cold and distant
Okay.
on all behalves.
Yeah.
And, and just the big deal was, he's just, I know you don't want to hear this, and I don't know this happened, but I love her, and I can't stop.
You said that, or I said that?
No, he said that.
Adam said that, yeah.
But I love her, and I just can't stop. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I just remember just looking at her going.
Yeah. Well, at least he wasn't denying it anymore. I mean, at least you got some honesty out of him. He was being upfront with you about that, as bad as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and I was just like, just look at this. I said, look at these three people sitting in this room. I was like, how in the fuck did we get into this mess? This is absolutely absurd. And my thing I've said 5 zillion times, I said, I can't believe this is my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just over and over again.
Yeah.
But anyway, that happened, and then the bad thing was, they go to TV, and then I guess if management did talk to them about this meeting, it's just I became the one because I was off TV at this time, and I was shunned though, because they were like, this is a problem, you guys figure it out yourself, and they asked me not to come because they're worried about a physical problem at the building, just because, I was still in the right in the scenario, especially from a moral aspect.
Yeah.
I understand for a business aspect, he was on TV, but if they would have took us there in Raleigh and sat down with us in some management and talked about things, they would have saw that we could have worked through things at this time, and I really think that was a big mistake of theirs.
Yeah.
So then anyway, then you've got a couple weeks going on, and there's times where Amy's in Atlanta, and then Adam tells his wife he's going to Phoenix for an appearance a day early, and then he really goes to Atlanta, and then she busts him, and then Amy was trying to tell me that, but he wouldn't let her tell me that because he knew that if I knew, then I would tell his wife again. It was just
And was Amy telling Adam, stay away, I want to be done with this, or was she so confused?
No, the biggest thing was because I was so unstable. If I would get mad at her because of something she did, then she would talk to him because they were the two guilty parties in it, and that was the only person she could talk to.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, even looking back in retrospect, if I had have been able to, but you just can't. If I could have been able to keep
that's asking a lot.
That's asking a lot. It's pretty unrealistic. If I could have kept my cool the whole while, it would have been an easier situation, but it's just once again, I've never been in any of that before.
Yeah.
And then once I find out the stuff, he's just being dishonest, and it's just digging deeper and deeper, then just my hatred and disdain towards him is growing larger and larger.
Yeah. And you still care for him, as upset as you are.
Yeah,
and you know
absolutely.
He's messing with her and driving her crazy.
Yeah.
And as mixed as you're feeling.
love, it'd be nice if love was like a switch, like a light switch where you go on, off, but it's far from the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On both our instances.
Yeah.
And then there came a time where there was the Fayetteville House show. And I'd actually been in a book from them, but nobody had ever said never come there because I was just the one that was kind of shunned. Just in this situation, I was off TV, and I was the one that they weren't communicating with. Adam, yeah, sure, higher on the totem pole than me, doing stuff on TV. Let's understand from a business aspect, but that still doesn't make it right the way the situation was handled.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Fayetteville House Show, I stopped by there. I ate with some of my friends before that. I hung out with some of the guys. And I just went in that day and I talked to everybody, hey, just want to say hello to everybody, da 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 da. And he just kind of was on his own that day. Just very uncomfortable with me being there, obviously. And that night when the show was over, my whole point of going there was just to prove, look, I can be in a building with this guy and coexist.
And not just
no problem.
spear him.
Yeah, it's no problem, and we can pass it. We left there that night. I went and ate with some more of the guys. We went to Outback. Shannon was with me. We left there. We went to a club. We went to another club. We were there till like 1:30 in the morning or so, just hanging out, trying to have a good time and enjoy ourselves. We got on the road that night. It's actually the night that Shannon was in an accident where he just got in front of me and a car hit him head on. We were there till 4:30 or 5 in the morning, there all night. And lo and behold, the next day, and I'm still talking with Amy every day at this point, obviously. And Amy calls me the next day. She says, blah, 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 and we're just talking general conversation, and this, that, oh, really? I say, yeah, we did this last night, or we went here, or whatever. And she says, what about Adam's car? I was going, what about Adam's car? He said, I don't know if you heard this or not, but he got his tire slashed in his car van last night. I said, come on. I said, you're fucking with me, right? She said, no, really, he did. I said, come on, what? Why are you telling me this? It make me happy?
Yeah.
She said, no, really, he did. And I was going, you're kidding me. And I had no idea about it. It was somewhere in Columbia, South Carolina, wherever he stayed there. And I was going, that's great. I said, well, that makes my day.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I told her.
Yeah.
And I mean, she can tell from talking to me, even when she told him, that it was obvious that I didn't know anything about it. I had no concept.
Yeah.
So I guess the deal was, just they thought because I was in Fayetteville, and this is the Carolinas where, once again, strong following. They thought that I automatically either did it, which it would have been physically impossible for me to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And then, or that I had somebody do it for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
And the thing that happens is that the office, I think that was the final straw, and like saying that there was going to be too much trouble and that I was going to end up being released. But lo and behold, I found out, going back to Joe and Susie, is right. Another thing where I was so upset after Amy had left, I called a couple of friends and I got Susie's number. And just out of spite, I had Susie come over, hung out with her a couple of days, and as soon as I could get a chance to become physical with Susie, I did.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that I wanted to tell Amy that, just being so outraged.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like she was the person.
Give her a taste.
I was going to talk to at that time of just what I felt, and I knew it would hurt her
Yeah.
at the same time, just because I'd been hurt so bad, which was the right thing to do. No, but it's what I did.
Yeah.
And anyway, Susie's old boyfriend, Joe, who'd always hated me for a long time now because we'd been such good friends before, somehow had either heard about his tires being slashed, or because Joe is on drugs pretty bad and knows a bunch of real shady characters, could have possibly even done it himself. But I found out Joe actually contacted some people in the WWE and said he heard that Matt Hardy put a hit out on Adam Copeland. And that's where that information came back from. That couldn't happen. They ended up just vandalizing the car. And then for some reason, I was never asked about this and had absolutely less than zero to do with it. And they ended up they assumed it was me, and then from hearing this piece of information, which I just found out a few days ago, that was the determining factor.
Wow. And what have you done with this information other than tell it here? Have you told anybody else? Have you told WWE? Did you talk to Amy about this? Did you talk?
Amy knows.
Yeah.
And Adam knows.
Yeah.
And I don't know what kind of remorse he has, but I know I think he does feel bad that I was released.
Yeah.
And he didn't think that should have happened.
Okay.
But I'm definitely going to make sure that. And I don't know. I haven't communicated with him obviously since then. But I'm definitely going to make sure. I only found this out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to make sure some people know about it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty strong.
That's heavy.
That's very heavy.
That's real heavy.
Just on this assumption.
And are you pretty sure, based on the information you have, that was truly the final straw with management, hearing about that, and that they just either believed it or felt that, well, that's a good way for us to be able to get Matt out of the situation and keep pushing Edge?
I think so. I think they just kind of wanted to get out of the situation, too.
And that was whether it was true or not, they felt...
And then, too, on top of this, they were upset that I made it such a public situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
But that wasn't the bigger thing.
Yeah. I don't believe for a second, my personal opinion, I don't believe for a second that if you were higher on the totem pole and Edge was out with an injury and you were making money for them or on the verge of making money for them and you had made it public, that they would have still let you go.
Right.
Because it is about business with them primarily. They're in the wrestling business, and that's what they care about first and foremost. It's not about fairness. It's not about what's right.
Right.
If they can say, you know what, we've got edge, we've got momentum, let's do what's easier and better for business, then that's what they're going to do. But going public with it and talking as much about it with people who then talk to other people and spread the word, I mean, that was no question something they would have preferred not to have, because to them it's a personal situation that's a headache.
And it was like one of those things. I mean, it was just such a chain reaction. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Because you just tell a couple of people and it spreads, and then it spreads, and it's on the net, and then once that addressed, then if I do address it at all, and then other people address it, and then like a few people chant, and then they tell other people, more people chant, and then eventually we got a full-fledged garden thing.
Yeah.
You know, and who knows how long that lasts or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, just especially with that, to shun me like that and kind of block me out of the whole scenario and
Yeah.
not even ask me or try and speak with me on a level about like resolving the situation was very, very unfair.
And so it was Joe who called management and said
He called someone else that I know without using names, called
Sure.
someone else that had another called someone else to management.
Yeah, yeah. And made that accusation and
Yeah, and actually, and there's absolutely no, I mean, it's like, it's just such an absurd thing. Like when I heard that, I actually laughed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once I found out where it came from, wow, I was furious. I mean,
Yeah.
because I heard that there was some sort of assumption that there was a hit put on him that night, and I thought that was comical,
Yeah.
laughable. Because one, I mean, just even looking back, rationally thinking, like, why would I even chance doing something on that? If I knew that you would obviously you'd go to jail or whatever. I mean, it's not worth it. If I was going to do anything to him, I would have went and fought him at that Fayetteville house show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I was going to be that simple-minded, like, because I didn't want to lose my job out of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
And you're on good terms with Amy. You're trying to fix things.
Yeah.
That's not going to fix things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just really, really shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that Edge's career, or that Edge will ever be looked at the same way because of the way the wrestling business works? If people can make money with Edge, they're going to set this aside? Or do you think that this stained him personally enough that this actually will haunt him overtly for the rest of his career?
I think it'll always be remembered overtly,
Yeah.
unless there was something he did to make things right
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
And is there something he can do to make it right
I don't
at
know.
this point?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of those things you'll know if it happens, but the
Yeah.
effort hasn't been there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think the chances are right now of things working out with you and Amy?
I really don't know.
Have things gotten better at all since the time when you first discovered this in that 2-week period, and now you've been talking to Amy regularly? Have things gotten better, or have things gotten worse, or kind of the same?
I think there would be periods where they got better. We actually had a real good period like the week before I was actually released,
Yeah.
where we spent a lot of time together, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then like the release happened, and it was just, actually, she came up and she got some of her stuff from my house and spent a couple days there, and then actually went back to her place in Atlanta, and I went and spent a couple days with her. It was actually a pretty good, productive week. And then driving home that day, that Sunday, I stopped in Greenville, South Carolina, with one of my buddies, and actually worked out in his ring. It was just like I was having great workouts. I worked like 3 or 4 guys just in small matches, back to back to back. Just felt real good. And that's actually when I was informed. I got the call that day on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then after that, that was pretty heavy. I just remember
Were you shocked, or did you think that might come? Was that always in the back of your mind, or did you
it was in
think,
the back of my mind.
Yeah, but the odds were less than 50% in your mind?
Yeah,
that
you
they
know,
would,
really,
that they
I
would do
wouldn't
that.
have expected. I wouldn't think they would do it coming out of the situation.
Yeah.
But then again, nothing surprised me because
Yeah.
I've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And then I just remember that happening, and I remember talking to Amy after that. Jeff was the first person I spoke with. Actually called and left a message on her phone, and she called me when she landed, and like I told her, she was just floored by it. She was just like, she just felt so bad. So I just want to be there with you. I'm just so sorry.
Yeah.
And da 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 da. And we had a couple of days after that where she did come, and we were together again for a few days, which was pretty good. And then just like all this anger started spewing out of me, just stemming from the release. And that's like when I wasn't working anymore. Then all these people were asking me about doing radio interviews, this, that, and the other thing. And I started doing those, just because now I'm at a point where it's like I have to take care of Matt and promote Matt.
Yep.
But then just speaking about this story on these radio interviews and just kind of bringing this stuff up again bothers her more, because now it feels like I'm, trying to intentionally attack her again.
Yeah.
And not make it like a personal thing. And it's just like, it's so hard because like the thing was, I'm not trying to do that specifically to you, but it's just like I am trying to promote myself and tell my side of the story, because now I have to worry about my future.
Yeah.
What's going on. So that created tension right there, and I'm sure any tension that created just kind of pushed her towards Adam.
Yeah. And do you think she is more towards Adam now in terms of thinking maybe he's who I want to be with as of this tape?
I don't know. I really don't think there's really much difference, because then like it's almost a deal where I've came to a point where just like I've dropped it. Just like I got so sick of being just angry and just upset and full of disdain. It's just like, fuck, I'm just such a negative person. It's just like, I can't believe this is my life, and I can't believe I'm in this state because I'm the guy that is not that.
Yeah.
So I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to drop everything. I'm not going to talk trash about him. I'm just not really going to speak on her. The situation is the situation. It is what it is, and I'm past it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just with that being said, and like kind of the dust settling, like it's kind of improved our communication back and forth.
Because you've let some things go, at least for now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if it turns out where you end up back with Amy and you're 100% confident that you guys have a strong relationship now and you're not worried about her being vulnerable around Adam, what are the odds that WWE calls up and says, you're back with Amy, the situation has settled down, it was totally unfortunate what happened, but we've figured some things out, we've cleared the air, we want you back. Do you think there's a good possibility something like that could happen?
I don't know. I would like to think that would be possible, but I don't know. I really have no idea, and it's hard for me to even have an idea of what my standing is with them right now because I have felt so shunned.
Yes.
Especially in this scenario.
See, what bothers me about this is I think that, it's a John Laurinaitis issue. It's a talent relations issue. The buck stops with him when it comes to that, and Vince McMahon has given him authority. Mm-hmm. But when you have Madison Square Garden chanting, and now every arena they go to, there's some level of a chant, some loud, some soft, but it's always there. It's big on the internet. You've lost your job over it. And now, rather than Vince McMahon, who runs the company, picking up the phone and addressing it to you personally and saying, Matt, here's why it was done, or I need to find out what's going on. There's almost like, even with you didn't start with him 6 months ago or a year ago. Right. You've been with him for a long time. There's a lot of history. I can't believe that Vince McMahon hasn't picked up the phone and said, this is a big enough deal that I should be talking to Matt, getting his side, or at least speaking to him about why a decision was made. What does that disappoint you, or do you think that Vince is under an impression that you did something so heinous and that it's even, and in his mind he has proof that it's not even worth talking to you?
I honestly don't know, but I would.
I'm obviously asking for a guess. But.
Sure, I would like to think that that situation would be addressed instead of not addressing the situation, which was the issue. Because even if they were speculating on their own, they didn't want to let me know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they didn't address this issue.
Because their official line was, creative had nothing for you. The creative department had nothing for you.
Well, it wasn't really that. It was just that we're going to look at some other guys.
Yeah.
There was never like creative.
Well, the off record that I got was creative was not sure what to do with you.
But there were several ideas circulating around. Like I said, when I left, Stephanie and Vince were extremely high on me.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a bullshit answer.
And we're going to see where this goes over time. But as of this moment, they're hinting at doing a storyline with Lita and Edge. On the air, Lita and Edge crossing paths, making eye contact. What is that about, and how does that make you feel?
It's very awkward to watch, and I really don't know what it's about as far as that goes. And I would imagine just the reason they've had them doing that is just to address the chants.
Yeah.
But it's.
You seem positive. You seem excited that these chants are happening because, on one hand, it shows a support for you, but there's also a downside.
Yeah. Well, just the main reason why is just like, once you get rid of all the championships and money's made, whatever. Really, the most simple, important thing to me is just like what people think of you, really, and just what kind of mark you leave, and as far as the respect they have for you.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just very important that those people were very respectful and sympathetic towards my situation. And to me, just doing that just shows that they side with me, and it's very flattering.
A lot of them, though, don't know what Edge or Amy's side is. They don't know a lot of details. Some of them do. The ones starting to chant.
They just heard the story that's out there, though.
The word going around.
Sure,
but a lot of them are chanting it because it seems rebellious. Honestly, a lot of them are not. They're not. Matt's my best friend.
Oh, absolutely not. But I tell you what,
cool
I think more than just saying that, Matt's my favorite wrestler. I think there's a lot of people that really can relate to the situation.
Yeah.
Because so many people, like my email address that I have, the Angelic Diablo at earthlink.net, that people have been emailing me at. It's just like my fan email address.
Yeah.
I've literally had probably 2,500 emails of people, guys and girls, that have been involved in the same situation. Says, dude, it feels for you, and I really hate you've gone through all this. And I think just people that see that are like, fuck, this is an injustice. That's really what I think it is, more than people that like me as a wrestler, that they just feel sympathetic because there's so many people that's been involved in that situation.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And if you could go back and change one, I know there's things you would change.
Sure.
You can't have your heart ripped out and be through these emotions and not do something you regret.
Right.
But you can understand. You don't look back and go, that was ridiculous, I did it. But you would say, well, in retrospect, I might change it.
Absolutely.
What are a couple things you would change?
Just like I said, just even when I was so irate with Amy that first morning, I would just say, now, what is this?
Yeah.
Don't leave. We're going to sit here and talk about this, because what is this? Yeah. Just considering we had, so many years, so much water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Just try and, obviously she had lied to me, for a while, but at least try and figure out where all this was coming from.
Yeah.
But it was at that point humanly impossible for me. But going back, I wish I could change that.
Yeah.
And going back, I wish I had told my closer friends and talked with them, but just been able to try and control my emotions whenever I kept getting hit with all these blows, because just all I would do was like vent or have outbursts,
Yeah.
and it's just it's easy to say it looking back. It's very hard to do at the time,
Yeah.
but it's just those are the things I would just try to stay more level-headed and not as mad. But it's hard to say. It's hard to do that. It's
Yeah.
easy to say that, but it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, I don't think too many people are looking at this and saying Matt should have been rational during this. They may think you weren't perfect, but they're not expecting you to
Right.
be rational 100%. Can you make a good living and feel good about your career and be happy working non-WWE dates? Is this exciting for you? Are you determined to say, I'm going to actually make something better because of this unfortunate situation?
That's the only way I can look at
Yeah.
it.
And is it realistic, or are you fooling yourself? I mean, is there enough opportunity out there
Well,
to really
I
make
don't
things
know.
work?
I don't know. I mean, just like if you had someplace like a TNA
Yeah.
that's an upstart that has a possibility of doing something, I mean,
Yeah.
that motivates me to try and get there and give them everything within me.
Yes.
To try and be a leader there and,
Yeah.
and try and be somebody that helps them turn the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I fulfilled a lot of signing that contract was fulfilling a dream. Winning the tag team championships was a dream. Having a singles championship was a dream. Just being successful on my own was a dream. And I fulfilled a lot of things. There's a lot of things, believe me, left that I would love to do.
Yeah.
And I definitely think there's a good chance I'll be in the WWE again one day.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
But also, if I'm not in the WWE doing other things, I think I have a lot to offer. Not only just as a talent and wrestler, I have a lot to offer because I've learned a lot. And I feel there's a lot of younger guys I can even give information to, and I'm all about that too. I mean, there's so many people that take from the business but never give back, and I'm very happy. It makes me happy to give back,
Yep.
and help others.
Yep.
Because that's one thing. So many people have helped me along the way, and I know that that's a very important part of the business, and a lot of people miss that.
And you're going to have an opportunity now, without any interference, for the most part, you don't know until you're there, on TNA, on national television, to do what you want creatively, and most likely be featured in a way where you have more creative control than ever.
Hopefully so.
You
yeah.
hope so. And I mean,
Yeah.
that